Alright, so here's what I'm going with here. I got bobber, I got a tiny little gold rib hare's ear nymph. Oh, there we go. Oh, I had him and I lost him. I've been working this bobber here for about 10 or 15 minutes. Just bobber and a worm. Worm's about, I don't know, 12 inches away from the bobber because it's not that deep here. And there's the odd, I'm not seeing a lot of, mayfly action, flies coming up out of the water, but I am seeing the odd rise. The trout are jumping for something. So I'm inclined to think there are some, to some extent, there's a bit of a hatch going on here. There's flies basically coming up to the surface. A lot of different kinds of flies live in the water as insects, and then they, as aquatic insects, and then they, at some point when the water's warm enough, their back opens up and then wings come out, and they're vulnerable for a few minutes before they can fly up out of the water, and the trout attack them viciously when that's the case. Anyway, that's been going on around here, and they don't seem to have any interest in my worm. They tried the spinner. I did get a solid hit off the spinner. I'm guessing they must have mistaken it for a minnow, but I couldn't get any more hits on it. Which means they're not that interested in it, right? My other option here is I've got flies. I just didn't bring my fly rod. But if you have a spinning rod like this and a bobber, you can just put a fly in the end. And especially if it's like a nymph or like a hare's ear nymph, for instance. So basically a fly that can either be on the surface or in the water that mimics a lot of different fly patterns. Sometimes you can get a trout to go to that. So I got to re-gear, and man, the flies are really bad. I mean, you can't see in the camera because they're all around my head, but they're. I've got a rag wrapped around my ears, a handkerchief wrapped around my ears and on my neck, and I got a lot of bug dope on. But still, the flies are pretty bad. Anyway, I'm gonna try one more setup here to see if I can entice these fish. They don't seem to want the bait, so they seem to be after flies. And sometimes when that's the case, they just will not touch a hook. So let me try that, see what I can do here. All right, so here's what I'm going with here. I got bobber. This is really light gear. I got a tiny little gold rib hare's ear nymph, which is basically, what a lot of different mayflies look like before they emerge. And it's a good all-around thing to have in your kit, right? It doesn't have to be worked with a fly rod. Basically, if they're hitting, if they're jumping, if you're lucky, this is a good one to have. Kind of wish this bobber weighed a little bit more, but I think I can get it out far enough because they're not jumping far from shore. The few I've seen jump haven't been any further away than that cast right there. So just a question of waiting. See what happens. I just saw a fish rise about 6 feet from where that duck is. I don't want to cast over there and have the ducks go after my my thing, which looks like a little bug. You never know what they're going to do, right? Boy, the flies are bad today. I wonder what the ducks do about flies. Okay, let's see if I can get it over there. A little better. There's a rise there. Always cast her rises. They're right over there. See if I can get to it. Boy, if I could get that trout, one of those trout, to go after that hare's ear nymph. They're rising. My goodness, there's another rise over there again. There's action. That's pretty close. I don't know if the bobber's spooking them. Really don't know. Or if it's what they want. You just never know. I've never found one particular fly to be better than another on this lake. I've caught them on Royal Coachman. I've caught them on Nova Scotia mayfly. I've caught them on a hare's ear nymph. I think I've also caught them on dark Montreal. And of course I caught him on a Panther Martin spinner. Actually, I don't know that I've ever caught anything with just a hook and bobber here. Strangely enough, which is usually a pretty reliable presentation, pretty reliable way to get fish to come around. Can't get anything after this nymph. I mean, they're really jumping. That one over there is just going to town. Oh, there we go. Oh, it's so small. Definitely not a keeper. Well, we got one trout there, but not a keeper. To let him go. It's just too small, him or her. Too small to keep. It's like 6 inches or so. But yeah, the hare's ear nymph worked with the bobber. You can fly fish without a fly rod. Right? I think there's a bigger one jumping over there. So I'll get this guy off and try that other spot. Come on, man. Calm down. Oh, I had him and I lost him. I set the hook too hard. It wasn't that big anyway. It wasn't as big as I thought. Let me try again. Will he hit it again? He did hit it. I don't know if you saw that or not. Well, I've had a fish. I hadn't lost a fish. Caught a fish and let it go. Had another bite off camera. Didn't set the hook, but it was a small one anyway, basically. So I think and I'm at this point where I didn't bring a lunch today. I just brought a bottle of water with me, which is what I do a lot. I think when you're hungry, you fish better because you're kind of, there's arguments that you're more sort of dialed up predator-wise when you're hungry. You're supposed to notice things you wouldn't otherwise notice when you're hungry. Right now I'm noticing that I'm hungry. I'm starting to fantasize about eating food. My stomach's really growling. So I'm gonna do a few more casts and I gotta go back across the lake and a portage across another lake, hike up. Whoa, oh geez. I had it. I had a fish there and I lost him. Oh no. I was talking, was not focusing. Let me clean that off. I had one there. I don't know if you could see that, but the bobber started moving backwards. This is a good spot. There's fish here. But, boy, the flies are bad, and man, am I ever hungry. You know, I'm of a mind, and I've caught nice trout in this spot before. There's a rise. But I'm of a mind today that they're all small. I just saw a rise right over there. Let's see if that one's small or large. They seem to like this hare's ear nymph. Of course, now that I'm on camera, it doesn't want anything to do with it. Let's try another. Just cast in the general area, maybe right there. Seems to be getting warmer and warmer. The activity's picking up. Fish are getting more active, getting a little more careless, more aggressive, which is what you want. I'd love to see that bobber go underwater or backwards. Come on, fish. Tiny little hook on that thing. Not much more than a 1/4 inch long. All right, last cast, and then we'll call her quits. At some point there has to be a last cast. I always think when you say last cast, you focus a little harder. And that's when you tend to get a little bite. And of course, it's never the last cast, is it?